It's time to get ready. Oh wow. It's time to get ready. Wake up. It's time to get ready. Time to get ready. Time to get ready. Whoa. Wake up. It's time to get ready. Oh wow. It's time to get ready. Wake up. It's time to get ready. Time to get ready. Time to get ready. Whoa.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. It's your boys, Jorge and Roland, coming live for the podcast. Once again, it is Off the Bench. Just quick shout out. Actually, you know what? I'm really sad, Roll.
Why? What's up,
Well, I miss Diplomacy Clothing, man. I can't go shopping. I can only go through their Instagram, at Diplomacy Clothing, spelled as you heard it. But I got their shirt on. Clearly miss them. Clearly miss their products. And you know what? I just want to thank them once again for sponsoring the podcast. Because they've been holding it down. They've been the real ones. My boy Kyle Miller out there, he's listening to this podcast. Shout out to you, sir. You are holding it down for us in quarantine. But
you also got some new merch out.
Oh, we'll get to that later on in the show. But I'm honestly sad because the XFL got canceled. And I thought I watched every game. I'm not gonna lie to you, every game this season, and I was thoroughly enjoyed. I was a big fan of the DC Defenders until Cardale Jones decided to be the Buffalo Bills Cardale Jones and not the Ohio State Cardale Jones. But you know, it's neither here nor there. St. Louis Battlehawks were a great team also that I was looking into very deeply, but it was so nice to go on ABC, ESPN, Fox, and just see that there's football on after the Super Bowl, football on in March, in February, and it was such a good sight, and the model was so great where some of the teams, not all the teams, some of the teams played in the MLS stadiums, which hold a fraction of what the NFL stadiums hold.
Yes.
But that energy that you could feel in that MLS stadium when teams were playing, that was some lit energy.
Yeah.
And now that it's canceled, it's really sad because there was a lot of good players. I mentioned Cardale Jones. There was a lot of players out there that
a tight end just got signed to the Chargers, I believe.
And good for those guys that are able to get NFL deals right now, especially this late in free agency. We're so close to the draft.
But 10 days away, man.
But this was such a lost opportunity to have that extra football. Even and you look at the salaries, there's nothing compared to the NFL. Obviously, the quarterbacks get paid the most in the XFL, but just looking at the talent that was there, sure, you needed a couple more quarterbacks that played better, but it's still in its infancy. For what it was really good football, in my opinion.
No, you're completely correct there. And I cannot say that I sat here and watched all the games. I'll be lying if I said that. I have caught a lot of their games on YouTube, which the NFL itself did a good job of even making sure, hey, there's other leagues out there. Go tune in, And I tuned in and seen a couple of highlights here and there. I watched probably 2 games. But, like you said, it was very enjoyable. And it's such a sad time that COVID-19 is affecting multiple people, different types of sports, athletes everywhere. And it was a good time for a lot of those people who, like Cardale Jones, who had NFL, he's been on NFL teams before, but, this was a shot for him and other athletes out there to show that, hey, I'm still good enough to play. And scouts surely were watching. And, like you said, it's a lost opportunity for those people who won't have the chance now or the platform to showcase what they can do, especially, like you said, with the draft so close and teams not going to be looking at, signing someone from another league. They're going to wait to see what these young kids from college can do, which I don't blame them.
Yeah, and you know what? Looking at the XFL framework, it's especially from the TV side, there was no TV deal in place. It was just Vince McMahon working with the connections he had with Disney and NBC and Fox. Well, obviously just Disney and Fox mostly.
Yeah, of course.
Those networks. But it was this first year was meant to be a year where Vince McMahon pays for all the TV deals, like pretty much everything that came out from the XFL was paid for by Vince McMahon. He sold WWE stocks. He made sure that he had enough money to invest in this league. And in the beginning, it was like, yo, like this man is smart. He actually knows what football is, and actually knows how football can be more entertaining. I mean, those kickoffs, man. That's it. I can tell the NFL is going to take that kickoff idea, whereas everyone lined up at the 20, no one moves until the returner gets the ball, and that's a great idea. The 1, 2, and 3 point conversions. That's definitely gonna. I think if kickers start missing more in the NFL, I mean, sorry to like guys like Pat McAfee and Gostkowski and Adam Vinatieri, but the kicking game is probably going to get out of the league anytime soon. Now that we have those 1 to 3 point conversions, and
yeah, and I totally agree there with the kickoff with that going on there at the XFL. Like you said, the league's already very, very friendly when it comes to scoring. I know we talked about this previously, and you know, the NFL wants to see points scored. They don't. The days of great defenses are kind of over, and that's why, you know, shout out to all the great defenses that are in the NFL right now and the great defensive players, because, you know, they're at so much more of a disadvantage now. And I know a lot of people a lot of special team players in particular are going to not like the fact that, hey, why do I have to wait for this guy to get ahead of steam before I can move? He's going to make me miss, and he's going to go off and score touchdowns. And I mean, this is just the way the NFL is going. You know, it's all about scoring points. And like you said, I can tell the NFL at some point, may not be next season after that, but at some point in time, they're gonna definitely look into doing that. The 1, 2, 3 point conversions. I mean, you can still keep your kicker if you don't want to, you know, go for those 2, 3 point conversions. But I think that's going to be something that they'll experiment with and like crazy, and then see how it goes and such. But it was such an exciting thing to see, because it was different from what we were used to seeing. And I think what a lot of the audience liked, you know, they were like, "Oh, this is new. I never seen something like this before."
yeah, no, it was definitely something different. I mean, honestly, like just seeing Cardale Jones and how he got bounced from Buffalo to the Chargers, and just seeing him the arm strength that we fell in love with at Ohio State. And then, of course, like Matt McGloin. I mean, you know, Matt McGloin will always be an NFL backup. But then you transition to guys like Luis Perez, who are part of the Alliance of American Football, and just these guys that just a lot of undernamed talent that originally you would be like, who is this? Why is this guy on an NFL roster? And they're just killing the XFL. And the NFL is so offense friendly that it was nice to see a different league take a different approach. While they do love points, it's something completely different, because now both sides of the ball matter. It's not just having the strong offense that puts up points. Defense also goes into consideration with a lot of the games, especially with those conversions, because now it puts a lot of pressure on the defense to try to stop them instead of just the special teams just try to block the kick. And while that is exciting, not every team has a Cam Chancellor or a Troy Polamalu back in the day that's going to jump over your offensive lineman and block the kick every now and again. So it's good. It was really exciting to see those 1 to 3 point conversions. But again, this is something that was completely funded by Vince McMahon. Like, there was no team
shout out to
in
Vince.
And Vince, and the whole process was that Vince McMahon wanted this to succeed, and he definitely wanted this to succeed. He was going to leave the WWE for a large period of time, which got wrestling fans excited, because he wouldn't have his fingerprints all over that product. But based on the people he put in charge in the XFL, it seemed like he actually did his homework. He actually paid attention to the NFL product and said, I know what can fix it. And it's in the spring, so you're not stepping on the NFL's toes. And you can just say, hey, if we can create stars in the XFL. If not, they sign with the NFL, and now the NFL has no choice but to say, oh, so-and-so played so well in the XFL, and now you're just putting the XFL brand out there in a mainstream sport like the NFL, where the XFL is strictly just football fans. The argument can be made that NFL is more for football fans and people that don't watch sports ordinarily. Like, I bet I've dated girls in the past that really knew about NFL but never watched it, and now when they watch it with you, they can say, "Oh, I know that. I knew Luke Kuechly. I know Christian McCaffrey. I know about Mark Sanchez. Sadly, rest in peace to the GOAT. He's not dead, but he had a terrible career. The career is dead. But it's sad because unlike the AAF, I don't know if you're familiar with the Alliance of American Football League that was, I believe, a year or two ago. That league failed because they had no money, and they trusted an NHL owner to keep the league afloat, and clearly
essentially supply the league.
Yeah, and clearly they put too much eggs in one basket with this guy, and he just took all their technology, all their innovation, and just brought it back to his company, and just basically just let the league just crumble beneath its feet. Players weren't getting paid. It was just a terrible look all around. And now with the XFL, it's different. It's a different scenario because of COVID and because of the coronavirus. But it's still this was excellent football at its best. It's much better than AAF. It's almost on par. Some of the games were almost on par with the NFL. Maybe some questionable stadium choices like the New York Guardians playing in MetLife. I wouldn't have chosen MetLife as a destination, even though it is one of the few football fields that is in the New York area. I would have preferred playing in the Red Bulls Arena in a much smaller venue, just to bring that fan base in, because that's what the DC Defenders did. They played in the MLS Stadium around Washington DC, and it looked as if the XFL games were packed and people were selling out these games, and that's the kind of energy you want in your first year. Where, unlike some, especially with the Seattle Dragons, they were playing at the Seahawks Stadium, and it looked half empty. And even though realistically, when you look at the ticket sales, they only sell the 100 section seats.
Oh yeah, and I would like to see the XFL eventually become almost like I'm trying to think of a way to put it. Like a stepping stool for those who don't want to go to college. Let's say that.
Right.
If they could, make almost like a G League kind of thing, or, hey, you'll be making money, you'll be turning a profit. Obviously, you won't get the college offers, which eventually I think a lot of people would not. I think there would be a loud clapback if that was to happen. But a lot of people are against, for whatever reason, teenagers making money. Apparently, nobody wants that to happen. And I understand the NCAA side of view. Not to get too far off topic, but I understand why the NCAA do what they do. To get back though on what we're talking about here, I think the XFL though could look into doing what I was saying about trying to be an outlet for those who don't want to go to college, and because they're never going to be as big as the NFL is. That's just the reality of the situation. And I think Vince McMahon knows that. And all the owners that he, in the leagues, and they all know that. So they have to look like, hey, how can we be competitive and literally fill up these stadiums? Like it's going to take something drastic. Them doing a major move that no one's seen coming to make that happen. And Vince McMahon's the crazy son of a gun to make that happen. We've seen him do crazy things before. I mean, for the wrestling fans, the Attitude Era. We look back on it now, like, the Attitude Era, that's the greatest time, and anybody knew that would be a money seller. But at the time, it was a risk. It wasn't a for sure, known commodity that was going to pull views. It was just something they did to try to be edgier. And Vince McMahon is all about being more edgy.
Oh yeah, and the one thing that he did when it came to the XFL draft is that instead of going the NFL NCAA route and waiting for juniors or 3 years of eligibility and then you can apply for the draft, is that he was trying to get high school players straight out of high school. Don't need to go to college, come to the XFL.
Yeah.
And that's where the thought process of, maybe the XFL can be the spring football league, has no association with the NFL, but can act as the NFL's minor league.
Minor league in a way.
It's like, You can go. You can make some money if you want to stay in the XFL and just play football. Great. If not, you can go to the NFL. You have the tape now. You don't have to go to college. You have a couple months, 10 games worth of just pure football where you can send to scouts and managers, and you're like, hey, like I can play football. I'm 18, 19 years old. Sure, there's like a lot of external stuff that comes with it, but comes from a football standpoint. Yes, you have the tools, you have the resources, everything. I mean, Oliver Luck is synonymous within the NFL, so you already have the recommendation right there, and it would have been a great opportunity. But transitioning into something else about this league is that I mentioned earlier, this league was 100% funded by Vince McMahon, which means he got no money from Fox, he got no money from Disney, aka ESPN.
ESPN. Mm-hmm.
So everything, all the product, the players, the staff, everything about the XFL was paid for by Vince McMahon. And there was a huge dispute over what he was doing with the WWE stocks, selling so many stocks within the last year of 2019 to be able to fund the XFL, where upon its cancellation, people thought, oh, maybe, they're considering a return in 2021. But when you look at everything about how Vince McMahon funded this league on his own first year and then declaring for bankruptcy, that's something completely different. Now it's like, all right, Vince paid for this league. Now that the coronavirus isn't letting people go to these stadiums or these events, it's like, oh, well, we can't make any money. Because now we're starting to lose more money than we already had. We were already losing to begin with. The networks aren't giving us any money. The networks are just saying, like, fuck you, we don't want it anymore. And obviously from the network's perspective, you're not paying for the product. So you can say, oh, like, we don't have to show the games anymore.
Exactly.
And it's rough, especially hearing from that point of view that they filed for bankruptcy, so Vince McMahon doesn't have to owe any taxes or any money at all, and that they just fired everyone that works in the XFL.
Now, here's the thing I wanted to ask you about the possibility of the return. Because before, it was almost a slam dunk that, next year, come 2021, it will be back. There was no thought before COVID-19 came up that it wasn't going to return. Because, like you said, it has such a mass following. It was only getting more and more popular. It was looking nothing but up and before all this happened, of course. Question I wanted to ask is, do you think there's still a chance that next year we could see it? Because if I'm being honest, I don't think so. I don't think Vince. I think he already dumped a good amount of money into it. Probably he would have, probably put the max in. So eventually, at what point do you say, we tried, but it didn't really work? Do you think that the XFL will be back next year?
I would love for it to come back next year, but just looking at Vince McMahon as a whole, and not just from the football perspective, but from the wrestling perspective as well, the amount of money that the WWE is losing right now, the ratings that are continuing to plummet. I mean, Fox signed the deal with WWE, assuming that they would have 3 to 4 million viewers on a weekly basis. And it's looking more closer to 2, or maybe a little less than 2 million.
Probably.
And just from the wrestling perspective, that's where the money came from, where Vince McMahon felt comfortable to start the XFL again. And if the XFL were to return, they need to have a TV deal. And I don't know.
It would have to be.
I don't know any network out there right now, just off the top of my head, that would be willing to give him a lucrative TV deal for 5 years, 10 years.
It would have to be a station, almost like how the Yankees got Yes Network. It would have to be something like that. It would have to be a very small company that literally invests and promotes nothing but the XFL, and it will have to be at least a 5 to 10 year deal, like you just said, because Vince is going to need to know that they're not going to quit on him. You can't live on a year to year basis.
Yeah.
No league is going to function on a year to year basis. There has to be security for the players, the coaches, the owners. Vince itself, and like you said, that lucrative deal that he got from Fox, surely that's where he felt comfortable. Like, hey, I just got all this money, but a part we got to also mention is, I'm sure with coming to that big Fox deal came pay raises for certain, superstars on the wrestling roster. And at what point in time I think that's why the Revival also just left. I feel like Vince is just at the point now with understanding he signed too much talent and he can't afford to, at this juncture, continue to, pay everybody. And I'm not saying his wallets are hurting by any stretch of the imagination. He's still a super rich guy, but I think it's going to have to take like a 5 to 10 year deal on Swell Network for Vince to realistically have a chance at salvaging this thing.
Yeah, for Vince right now to get any form of TV deal, I mean, looking at TV deals right now within the WWE, I mean, he fired the president and of WWE because of the WWE Network and how the WWE Network wasn't doing the numbers that Vince envisioned when they first launched. I mean, they give away every pay-per-view for free. All you have to do is put in a different email address the entire time. And when you offer that product, and even WrestleMania is offered for free for years.
Yeah.
And that was losing a lot of money. The subscriber count isn't what everyone at WWE envisioned it was going to be. No. Now there's discussion about moving the top pay-per-views like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam into like a Super Bowl type of TV deal where a Fox or an NBC, because NBC Universal do own USA Network, so they could just put it on NBC on a Sunday and it'll be just free TV, and then they just get money from ad revenue. They're thinking about going back into pay-per-view, and it's just all these different decisions lead to me to saying that Vince McMahon can't get a TV deal done. And I don't think there's any small network out there that's willing to bite the bullet for the XFL just to show XFL stuff. I mean, Vince McMahon is one of many things, but he's not a James Dolan where he can own Optimum and force an MSG network channel on us consumers, whether we like it or not, and just throw Knicks and Rangers down our throats. And the network could be dying too for Vince McMahon. So there's a number of factors going into this, and I don't think the XFL is going to come back within Vince's lifetime, which is a shame because I think this XFL reincarnation was the best spring football we could ever have. And I think ever have, because I don't think Donald Trump is going to come out of the White House and try to start another spring football league to compete with the NFL. And Vince McMahon was pretty much the last hope. That's already 0 for 2. Well, 0 for 3, really, when you go way back when Trump was part of the AFL.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 0 for 3 right now with spring football. I don't think it's going to happen, but you know what? We'll save that discussion after this break. We're going to be right back after a word from Diplomacy Clothing. Negotiate with style with Diplomacy Clothing. In this time of the coronavirus, we're all trying to stay safe, and Diplomacy Clothing has you covered, featuring their brand new Diplomacy Clothing face masks. Fit to keep you safe with washable cloth. That'll be easy to clean for reuse. Diplomacy Clothing. Follow them on Instagram at Diplomacy Clothing. Welcome back to Off the Bench, ladies and gentlemen. Roland here once again. So, Roll, I have a question to ask you. We left off the last segment talking about spring football. We're 0 for 3. Will there ever be spring football in our lifetime?
I'm gonna go off on a limb and say yes, because I think it's not gonna be soon. I think we can agree to that XFL hopes are dashed, but I'm not gonna rule it out. And here's why I won't rule it out. There's enough creative rich men in this world, that got money that don't know what to do with it. And the timeline of what the XFL was going with was perfect time. Spring. It's not like you're stepping on the toes of the NFL. The NFL draft still commence. You're not really conflicting with much of anything besides what NBA. Which nobody really, honestly, let's be real, nobody's really caring until the playoffs happen. We'll watch, but we won't care until the actual playoffs happen. Um, and then of course you got spring training and stuff, but that is what it is. Um, I think it could happen. I think it will happen. I couldn't envision. I couldn't give you a time date if you would ask me when. But I think in our lifetime we'll be blessed enough to see an evolution of new football arise. Because like we talked about before the commercial break there was a huge following for the XFL. Not like it was lacking popularity. There was only the COVID-19 that's really kind of stopped it. So it's people going to look at that and they'll do the stats and we established Vince McMahon struggling to find a TV deal, but that doesn't mean somebody else will. Somebody else can come to the table almost like how they do with AEW. Be like, hey, look, we got a product here. We just need a place to put it. And if you can, convince some of these higher ups on these television shows to give you a chance, that's all it takes. I think it'll happen. I couldn't tell you when, but I think it happens.
I'd really like to see someone like a Gary Vee
Okay.
in the XFL. For all the talk he has about wanting to own the New York Jets, why not own your own fucking league? Get in cahoots with Vince McMahon, and now you not only control one team, you can control a New York team, but you can control all the teams. And then you can say, Roger Goodell, fuck you. I'm the business genius, Gary Vee. I'm going to build the XFL or whatever spring league to the highest of heights. And a spring football league can work. The viewers are there. And sure, the XFL viewers and ratings were going down as the season went on, but that's more of a result of the lack of star power the XFL has.
Exactly.
When I started this episode, I said I loved seeing Cardale Jones back because Cardale Jones is the one known quarterback to come out of the Ohio State University, and you can pump that all season long. You can pump that milk all season long.
Especially when he was doing great early on in the season, man. He was killing it.
Oh, you could do side by side videos of Cardale at Ohio State. I'm sorry, the Ohio State versus him at DC, and you could just keep going, and that's a story right there. And yes, a guy like maybe a Trevor Lawrence would have been nice to have been drafted, but you're early in your infancy in the league. You can't automatically assume that you're gonna have a star right away. You just have to have the players. The players you can sign that the NFL casted off, and hope that you have a good product. And sure, teams like the New York Guardians weren't as exciting to watch, but a place like St. Louis, St. Louis had the biggest following for the XFL. They changed their street names for the St. Louis Battlehawks. They had near sellout games for every home game in St. Louis. St. Louis is a city right now that loves football. Miss football. They would pay money out of their own pockets just to revive the XFL. If it means football is back in St. Louis.
And here's the thing, George. Here's the thing. Like you just said, St. Louis. We can touch on all the teams, all the cities that lost teams. And they've all been great football towns. Even the ones who just never had a football team that we know would probably fit, perfectly great. Like, it'll be perfect for the spring league to, let's bring a football team back to St. Louis. Let's get one here. And, there's plenty of enough room and plenty of enough money to make that happen. I would love to see a real person jump in there with Vince. I think Vince would be willing to go ahead and do it again if a partner was still, prize. If someone said, hey, Vince, I'll go 50-50 ownership with you. I'll put my money up, you put some of your money up, and then we'll make this thing happen.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. That's why I bring up guys like Gary Vee. Even some like a Dave Portnoy who loves Boston and Boston sports. The entire New England. There's so many people out there that would love a spring football league because, one, it's football. Everyone loves football. It's the number one. I'm sorry, baseball, but football is the number one sport in America.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Oh, for sure.
And it's the most popular sport in the country. And it just gives you more stuff to write about as a football writer, football blogger, whatever you want to call yourself. It's more content. And it's more exciting stuff. There's so much stories you can pull out. I mean, this guy, Luis Perez from New York, he was a third, fourth string quarterback on the team. That's a story right there. Just all the other quarterbacks on New York just kept throwing picks. I mean, Matt McGloin is now infamous for saying his head coach needs to change up the offense. And then literally the next series, the next offensive series, he gets benched. And it's all
Shouldn't have said anything.
But this, we need spring football at this point, I think, because the NFL it had a Brady problem, where everyone was assuming, all right, it's the Patriots once again making the playoffs. The AFC East is weak; they can't challenge. And sure, this upcoming season with Brady out of the AFC East now, that's going to be a lot of stories, but that's only going to last for another 2 years, 3 at the most. And then who knows what Bill Belichick is going to do with New England now that he has a different quarterback. He has
Trevor Lawrence.
Who knows? Who knows? But there's the fans are out there wanting something different that isn't the NFL anymore. And there's so many teams. And I mentioned again St. Louis. That's a football heavy team. They love their football. They were very devastated when Kroenke decided to uproot the Rams and move them to LA.
Yeah.
So the potential is there, but the one key thing is the TV deal. What billionaire out there can secure a TV deal with a Fox, CBS, NBC? Because you just need that one network that will show every game. And
Just one. That's all it takes, man.
If you only have 8 teams in the league in a 10-game season, you can have just one network. You don't need to go to a Fox, ESPN, and just multiple.
No.
You just need to secure even a 3-year deal. Or a 1 to 2 year deal of just pure football, just so you have that incoming money from a network.
Yeah, even if they wanted to spread the games amongst the 7-day period of the week, you don't have to air every game on Sunday. You can do like a Sunday Monday kind of thing. Try to split it up to where every team at least can get semi-broadcasted, depending on obviously local teams getting, like. We living in Virginia, we get the DC, the DC teams, and you being in New York, you guys get all the New York teams and stuff like that. They don't have to cram it all in the Sunday just because the NFL does that. They can set their own tone.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, there's a lot of potential. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have left. Roll, thanks again for joining me. Y'all, thank you all, the listeners, the viewers, for listening to another episode of Off the Bench.
Thank you.
You know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, like, share for more, follow on Spotify, follow us on Facebook, Off the Bench Pod. We love you all. Hope you're staying safe and healthy in this quarantine COVID situation.
Stay safe, everyone.
We love y'all. Take care.